Okay, this is step one to creating a TLXOS SD card for the Raspberry Pi. So what I'm doing here is formatting an SD card because I've used it before. There's a program called SD Card Formatter that you can Google for and download, install, and it's an easy way to format the SD card in the way the Raspberry Pi likes it done. So just click on Format, and yes, formatting was successful, so we can close that, and that's step one. Okay. Step two, we go to ThinLink's website, go to the download page, then you select a mirror. I'll just use USA Mirror 1, and we find the Raspberry Pi image. And this has got TMS. You can download TMS, and the latest version is 8.0.1. We're about to release 8.1.0, which is has new features. So you can get TMS from here, and you can get installers for other versions of TLXOS as well, but we're after the Raspberry Pi. So I select this one here, TLXOS Raspberry Pi SD card, and okay, I've downloaded the TLXOS Raspberry Pi 4.5.0 version, the EXE. This creates an SD card, so if I double click on that, so now I need to just switch to the administrator. It asks if I'm ready to write SD card, and the answer is yes. So first thing it does is extracts the image that's in this EXE file. The file you download is about 350 megabytes, and it's extracted down up to about 1.2 gigabytes. So it's doing that now. It's extracting the image. The next thing it's going to do is let us write the image. So this just uses a program called Win32Disk Imager, which is built into our downloaded EXE file. So you click on write, and you can select yes, and you can see the progress here as it writes the image. We'll just come back to this when it's finished. Okay, it's up to 99%. That's right, is successful, so it's finished writing the image. So we can exit from this program now by clicking exit, and it will come up with this error message here. The program might have not installed correctly, so you can just safely ignore this. So you can either click on cancel or close, and that'll just get rid of that warning box. Now if you want to see what's on the actual SD card, we can go over here and click on it, and you can see the files that have been written to the SD card. And the next step is to actually install this OS by plugging it into a Raspberry Pi 3, and we'll do that step next up. Okay, I've just inserted the newly written SD card into a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. This same SD card also boots on a Raspberry Pi 2, Raspberry Pi 3, 3B, etc. So this is the first part of the installation. While it's booting up now, it's getting an IP address from a DHCP server on the network here. This network is connected to the internet, and has to be, so that the TLXOS installer can connect to the ThinLink's license server and receive a 30-day for about 40 seconds or so. So the next step is it's downloading its license, installing it. So depending on how long it takes to connect to the license server, well, here we are. It says the device is unlicensed. So the first boot up is going to run the web browser. The reason it's said it's unlicensed, it's detected that this device is not a new installation. I've installed it, TLXOS, on this hardware before numerous times. So as far as the installer is concerned, this device, it knows it's got a license, but we have to re-license it because it's been licensed before. So in a normal situation where you've never installed TLXOS on this particular piece of hardware or Raspberry Pi before, this message doesn't appear unless there's some issue connecting to the license server. So we use the Thin Links Management software, TMS, to license it, which I'll do now. Okay, I've just licensed it, so I can just close that box. I'm going to reboot it now. Buy a license and install it, or you can wait until the trial's over and then install the license. If you wait until the trial's over, what happens is it'll reboot into what we call maintenance mode, and at that point you need to buy a license. And once you've installed the license, you can then use TMS to exit the maintenance mode, and then it will return to normal state. So this is the normal boot up into the web browser, but we want to use Citrix for this session, so we go to the configuration tool. I change the mode from web to HDX, and I can put down here the name of the server that I want to connect to, and after I've done that I can save the configuration. The first thing that's going to happen in HDX mode is it won't connect because I haven't installed a CA certificate, and it's an SSL connection, so I have to do that too. I have to use TMS to install that. So I'll save the settings here, and then I'll install the CA certificate using TMS and come back to that in a sec. You can see the message here telling me that I haven't installed the CA certificate. Which I'll do now. Okay, so I've installed the CA certificate, so now Citrix receiver will connect to a Citrix session, and in the username part of the dialog box here that pops up, I've just put the username, which is John in this case, and the domain's test, so I put in John@test, and then I've entered my password. So if I click on log on, this will connect to the storefront. So that's storefront. Click on log on again, and it'll come up with a list of applications and desktops that I've around a bit, and you can see them there. And I'm going to connect to Windows 7, so I click on that, and there's my Windows 7 desktop.